Today's episode of In Your Business with Dr. Alex is all about the recent floods that we had here in Ohio. We had some really bad floods about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, and so many people were affected in our neighborhood, all around us in the state. It was pretty bad, actually. And we haven't had a flood like that in our basement for, I think it's been about 11 years. 2011 was when we had a really bad flood, and this one was even worse. We lost way more in this flood. And but we were lucky, right? We still had power, we still had a home, we still had a bathroom, like we could still live in our home. It was just our basement. But I found myself pooling all of these life lessons from cleaning out my basement from this flood. So I wanted to unpack those in today's episode of In Your Business, because I think it's really going to highlight or shine a light onto some areas of your life where maybe you need to clean out your basement, if you know what I mean. And you'll understand a little bit more when I get into this story. But first off, I want to start off by saying that I had been wanting to kind of fix up our basement. Your basement, it starts collecting all the stuff, right? And you're like, yeah, I really need to get down there and clean it up. I really need to rearrange things. And I just never had brought myself to go down there. So this flood made me focus on it. So it had been brewing in my head about wanting to get down there to clean things up. And then boom, all of a sudden this happened. And now I had to get down there and do it. So that was like lesson number one. If something is, kind of your intuition is picking up on something, or, you're hearing something, getting a feeling about something, listen to that. And I had just been ignoring that whole area until I couldn't ignore it anymore. Okay, so pull that lesson from that. Then the second part was, once we started we pulled everything out of the basement, we stacked things on top, like we did what we could because the water was coming in really fast. So we only had a certain amount of time. And of course, it happens in the middle of the night. So luckily the kids were asleep, like they never even knew any of this was happening. They were asleep while mom and dad were dealing with all of this. So, we moved things out of the way, we pulled things out, we did what we could. So the next day after the water, receded and went back down, we started looking, and we started, throwing stuff away. And then a couple of days went by, we got that all done. We're cleaning, mopping, drying everything out, fans everywhere. And then finally it came to the point where we were going to start putting things back, right? Like reassembling the area. I checked, the washer, the dryer was good. My freezers were still working down there. The furnaces, air conditioners, everything was working. I was so glad. I was like, let me plug these in and pray that they work. And they all did. So that was good. We have a tankless water heater, so we didn't have to worry about that. All of that was good. So now it was just time to deal with all the stuff in the basement. And so we were going through boxes, and, I'm getting rid of things, and I was doing fine with all the purging, did great with that. But then it came to putting things back. And what I found out, and actually what me and my husband came to the realization of, we were putting shit right back into the same spot that it was before. And I just started looking at things, and our oldest just left for college. So we really don't have to have a lot of his extra things down there, because I was looking at some coats and things that were hanging up that I had hung up in the exact same way, pretty much in the exact same spot in an empty basement. Like I could have put that shit anywhere else, but I was still putting it in the same spot, and then keeping stuff that really didn't really belong there. And then I started looking at the way that our shelves were and the way that we were putting our boxes, and just everything that we were doing, we were putting it back into the same spot because it was comfortable, because it was what we knew. And we had every opportunity to change that, to move things in a different area, to reorganize things, to reassess, to really think about the layout and what we were doing and what we were keeping. Because even though I had went through and purged a bunch of stuff, I'm looking at things and I'm like, I really could get rid of that. Like, I don't need that. And I've been finding myself really purging and cleansing my environment lately, really getting hardcore on this. And not to say I'm a minimalist or anything like that, but definitely when your area is less cluttered and more free, then there's more energy flowing, there's more freedom flowing. It feels different, right? The vibe is different. So I said, what am I going to do with this basement now that it's clear? And we were even like knocking down some old drywall and stuff from the last flood that we had. They came and chopped our walls like this. And we had some bits and pieces of things like around the chimney that were still there that we never dealt with, right? How much shit do we have in our lives that's just hanging around that we don't deal with? So I'm like using the hammer and, pulling those things down. I'm like cutting old telephone wires, right? Like, who got a house phone anymore? Who has like an actual house phone? Not many people. We sure don't. So, but there was all these like phone lines in our basements. I'm like snipping phone lines, just really, just really focusing on the basement and like, why am I even having this stuff down here anymore? What is its purpose? And where am I going to put it at? How am I going to rearrange it? Because again, I was finding myself, and it was both of us, me and my husband, we were just like putting things back in the same place. And I'm like, we don't got to do that. But again, it was because it was comfortable. It was what we were used to. It was what we were subconsciously, automatically going to. And how many other areas of our lives are we doing this shit in? Like, that's what I had to think of. And I think it's such a good metaphor, but it was such a good lesson that I just sat in and that I realized and that I started applying and thinking about in other parts of my life. And so that's why I wanted to share this story with all of you, because if you're watching this and you're local to me here in Ohio, more than likely you were affected by these floods as well. So now you're going through the same situation. And are you just going to put everything back the way it was, or are you going to take a step back and reassess and purge and eliminate and curate a new environment for yourself in your physical environment around you, right? I'm talking about your basement or anything else that might have got damaged, but then also take it one step further, because so often our environments are a reflection, right? They're a manifestation of the internal shit, the internal turmoil that we are dealing with. So if you're finding that you're having difficulty with that, more than likely there's some difficulties within that you're dealing with as well. And I really had to check myself. And I did notice because I found myself in other areas of the house, like we just redid my son's room. He's 6, and we just purged the shit out of that room, and we were, throwing old toys away. Like, why am I hanging on to these baby toys? Like, my son doesn't play with them anymore. He don't care, and I don't want him to get into that habit or into that mindset of wanting to hang on to things. I want him to give freely, to let these things go to someone else or to someplace else, and not be hung up on these physical objects, right? So we went through his room and got it all set. My oldest is in college now, so I'm about to go through his room. Not that I'm going to throw any of his stuff away, but I'm just going to go clean up and organize that room because it's a hot mess still from when he up and left and packing. So I'm going to get all that situated, our basement, and we're still undergoing huge changes in our home now because we had some flooding up here in our bathroom, like right next here to my office. We had some flooding up here. So my office is still under construction, our bathroom. So we've got some other things that are in the works here. And I just kept thinking, this is such a great time to do something different, to do a different layout, to live differently, again, to curate a new environment for myself, new decorations, new colors, new setups, new layouts, new different, lanes for some energy to be flowing. I'm doing that in all areas of my life. And again, going back to, I kept thinking, the basement, the basement. I got to do something about the basement. I need to get down there, and I just didn't. And it just makes me, I can't help but draw the parallel, draw the connection between that and health in our bodies. And we know we have to do something. We know we should, we got to, and it's always keeps coming up, but we don't do anything. We keep putting it off until something catastrophic happens and we are forced to deal with it. I was forced to deal with my basement. I was forced to take days, weekends to devote to that basement to get it back into shape. And it's still not even all the way done yet. We still have some other work that we need to do down there, but now at least it's functioning. I can do the laundry, we can get to the different things down there. So it's functionable is not the correct word, but I keep wanting to say it. It's not the right word, but I keep wanting to say it. It's functioning for us, but it's still not how I want it. There's still work that needs to be done down there. So I'm going to go do it. I definitely want to get down there because I like the space. I like the vibe that I'm creating down there. And again, thinking about our own health and our own bodies, we keep putting things off always. And we have these nagging things that keep coming up and these warning signs, right? Your body's talking to you, these different warning signs that you keep getting, and you keep putting it off until something catastrophic happens or will happen eventually. And then you're going to have to deal with it. And then it's far worse, right? If I would have, right, looking back, if I would have started cleaning out that basement and rearranging things and get into it, we would not have lost nearly as much as we had lost if I would have went down there and done what I wanted to do down there. What I kept getting called to do but didn't do, I kept putting it off. Then I was forced to deal with that. And even the guy who came to fix our sump pump the other day said the same thing. He said right around the same thing. He was like, sometimes these things just happen to make, in order for you to go in there and clean things out. And he's absolutely right. And so often I could not help but draw the parallel between my basement and what I was doing, what I wasn't doing, and health, and what we continue to stay complacent in, and how we set up our environments the same way, but we're expecting different outcomes. So it's just, it makes such perfect sense to me, and I hope it's making sense to you, that you can really see the metaphor, the little story that I'm trying to weave here between what happened to me and the life lessons that I learned from this, and how it applies to other areas, and how, I'm not immune to this. I'm sharing this story with you. I wanted to just put things back, and I got so comfortable. I was just doing it subconsciously. Like, yeah, this tote was over here. I'm going to put it back here again. And this shelf was here. Let me put it back here again. And it's like, why? I have a whole back there. Like, I could put it in so many other places, like do something different. And so now we're going to totally rearrange how the basement is. And it needs to be done like that. It needs to be. But subconsciously, we just went right into boop and didn't even realize it till we were just about done. And we're like, why did we just move everything into almost the exact same places? Why? We don't need to. So think about that in your own life. What are you sticking with? What is comfortable for you? Where do you need to make changes? What messages are you getting that you keep ignoring, that you keep putting off? That if you do something right now, it'll be so much easier, so much easier. The chances that you'll lose something huge or have a huge loss will be so much less if you get to it now, whatever it might be. And I can't stress that enough when it comes to your health, when it comes to cardiac disease, right? And I'm thinking about our arteries and our blood vessels. They can take a lot of punishment. They can take a lot of plaque buildup. They can take a lot of stretching. They can take a lot of hardening. But at some point, enough is enough. And then that's when you have that heart attack, right? Your body gives you those warning signs. You get the high blood pressure. You get those elevated cholesterol numbers when you do your lab work, right? You get put on those medications. Maybe you start getting a little bit of that angina, that little bit of that chest pain with exertion. You're like, oh, that's okay. I'm getting old. I'm getting old. It's your body telling you stuff. Listen to it. Don't ignore it. And if you would have done something then, it could have prevented that massive heart attack, that widowmaker, that quadruple bypass that now you have to get. If you would have just listened back then, if you would have made the changes, if you would have went in there and cleaned things up, then the loss wouldn't have been as great as ignoring it and then waiting and having that catastrophic event. Does that make sense? I could talk about diabetes too. When your A1C is rising, and you start noticing those dark marks around your neck, and you start noticing that swelling, you start noticing that thirst, you're going pee all the time. You get put on the pills, then the pills aren't working, you get put on the insulin's not working, you just keep getting prescribed more and more. You start getting numbness in your toes and your fingers. And then next thing you know, you bump your toe, you get a cut and it doesn't heal, gets infected, then you lose a toe. Then you lose another toe. Then something happens to your other foot. You get a cut on your leg. Then that doesn't heal up. Then they're cutting off your leg below your knee. Then that doesn't heal up. Then they're cutting your leg above your knee. Then that doesn't heal up. You get you go septic. You get a huge infection in your bloodstream, affects your organs. Then your organs shut down. Then you end up on life support for days, for weeks. Maybe you go brain dead. Maybe you never wake up. Maybe your family will have to decide to take you off of life support. This is real shit that I just laid out right there that happens. And people don't want to believe that that can happen to them, but that absolutely will be your trajectory unless you listen to those little signs, those little warning signs that you get early on, that intuition, those feelings that you get, that knowing you need to do something, but you don't do anything about it until that catastrophic event forces you to. So those are just two examples of cases that I see day in and day out that I have cared for over 20 some years. That is always the progression. Always, always, always. Because these are chronic lifestyle-based diseases. Unless you do something radical to reverse them, to halt them, then that is going to be your trajectory. That is what is going to happen to you. Absolutely. So I could not ignore the huge parallel between what I experienced there and what I see happen in healthcare with people, with the people I talk to, with the people that send me messages, with the thousands and thousands of patients that I've cared for over the years. This is always the progression. And I've made huge changes in my life, but again, I'm always constantly working on myself. And again, the mindset piece is so important. And I caught myself subconsciously, those subconscious thoughts, those that drive the actions that we do that are not that great for us. So I had to really check myself and like, oh, why are you doing that? And you can do something different about it. Absolutely. You have a choice. So we're doing something different about it. We're rearranging things. We're moving things around. And it's exciting. It's fun. Even though cleaning out your basement is not the funnest thing, it's been a really great therapeutic exercise. And again, it just brought so much awareness around what I had been comfortable with, what I had become used to. So I wanted to share that with all of you because again, I see it so often. And I wanted to take it a little bit deeper in this episode and talk about that today. But really think about your life. And if you're watching this video, live, the replay, whenever, leave a comment below and let me know, did this, ring any bells for you? Did this hit you? Did this make you think about something in your life that you're just staying comfortable with, that you need to change? You're hearing that, but you haven't taken any action on it yet. And hopefully this will be the wake-up call. If not today, tomorrow, another day, whenever you might be listening to this, whoever might be listening to this, that it's your wake-up call to do something different, to really tune into yourself and listen to yourself, honor yourself, make a decision and do something. Don't just be inspired by me or my videos or the things that I talk about, or like, oh yeah, that was a really great idea, or that was really good what she just said. Don't settle with that. That's basic. Be inspired to take action, to do something with what you have gained from this, what you have learned, the insight that you have around this. Really take action on that insight. That's how you change. That's how you grow. That's how you save your life. Seriously. So Let me know what you took from this. And if you don't want to share here, it's a little bit too, then send me a message. You can always send me a message or send me an email and let me know. I want to have these conversations. I want you to get deeper insight around this, around your health, around your body, around up here in your mindset, what you think about yourself and your health. So huge, so huge. And if you want one-on-one support, you know how to get a hold of me too. Send me a message. Let me know. This is all the stuff that I work on in my program. This is why I created that signature spice method that I use, really looking at you holistically, not just your physical body. There's so much more to you. And the mindset, the insight, the eye of spice, insight is so powerful, so important. All right, guys, that is it. That's all I have for today. Like I always say, for a balanced life, just add spice. I'll see you in the next video.